Ooka chaka, ooka, ooka, ooka chaka, ooka, ooka, ooka chaka, ooka, ooka, ooka chaka, ooka, ooka.
I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me. Girl, you just don't realize what you do to me. When you hold me in your arms so tight, you let me know everything's alright. I'm hooked on a feeling, I'm high on believing that you're in love with me.
Welcome to week 4 of the Bill Neese's Coaches Show. I am your host, Chip Hare, and with us is head coach Bill Neese. The Indians have another win to take their record from 2-0 to 3-0 on Friday night by defeating Greenville 49-0. And Coach, obviously a win that the Indians dominated from the beginning to the end. There's a lot that you can look at that film and say, yeah, that worked or that didn't work. Nonetheless, at the end of the day, you won 3 and we're 3-0 and we're moving on to the next one.
We are, and I was, proud of our effort. I know, you can kind of look at it and say, well, Greenville hasn't won a game this year, and, et cetera, et cetera. I think our players did a very excellent job of preparing, and I thought, we could have came out and we could have played sloppy, and we could have, not had good practices during the week, but we came out the entire week and practiced like we're supposed to practice, and we emphasize practice like you're a winner. And I think we did that all week, and then when the game started, we were able to execute, fairly well.
Difficult to play against teams such as what you talked about, Greenville, who is obviously had graduated a lot of seniors, and they were not as strong. It takes a disciplined team to be able to play that type of team and to be able to stick with the game plan, regardless of what you might be thrown at in terms of whether it's calls going for you or against you, a team that might be trying to change the pace. And for us to be able, and we came out of the gate strong, real strong. That first quarter, we set the tempo and set the tone of what that was going to be like.
I think so. I agree with it. And I think it's kind of a little bit of the approach that we take to games, and that is we never do anything personal. In other words, we don't sit up and say, okay, here's Greenville's offense, here's Greenville's defense, here's a good player, here's a bad player, here's this, like I think some people do. We put it up and we say, hey, they're 0-0, we're 0-0. This is what they do. This is what we have to stop. This is where they line up, and let's go from there. Of course, the kids watch film. The kids can see some things. Our players can see a lot of stuff watching film, but it is never, on a personal basis. So as a result, when we come in, the old phrase that we used to use when I was in high school is we respect all, we fear none. And I think it's, it's the case when we come in on Friday nights. And I think if you continue to do that approach, and you don't just talk about it, but you actually, live it, then I think in a game situation like that, you can come out, get the win, and move on.
Coach, before we move on and talking about our next opponent, I think a couple more things that would be noted to this game. One, we talked about the strong start. But the other part to that is as a player and a coach, that you're taking this team, when your scouting reports and the film that you're watching, your tone of the conversations in the locker rooms, your scouting reports, your tone of practices aren't any different than if you were playing Troy.
No.
You take the name or the school colors and you blanket. It's the same approach every week. And I think if kids hear that, regardless, and then when we are playing a team that, like this week, is 3-0, the conversations, the tone in the locker room is no different this week than it was last week against Greenville. Correct?
Correct. Any given night, and I know that's a cliche, but in high school football it's very important because any given night you can have 1 or 2 injuries here, you can have something happen during a game here that could take away your entire game plan, and you're behind a little bit. So you got to come in every game with the idea that you've got to do your best to win the football game. We never take anything for granted.
Not taking anything for granted, let's move forward to Stebbins. Stebbins comes in 3-0. They have an interesting statistic that I saw. They've been down in double digits in all 3 games and have come from behind to win all 3 of those football games. you're walking. You got a good, talented team that's well coached. They've got some skill guys. A quarterback that's been, I believe, a 3-year starter. He's got some targets. There's some players. This is a different team that's coming to Alexander Stadium, and the Indians, and that's the Piqua Indians. I know we'll be ready to go, but we have a lot of things that we have to accomplish on Friday.
I think so. I think they're a program that's on the rise. They do a lot of really good things. That we do a decent amount of things that are similar than them, and I think their schemes are very sound in what they're doing, and overall they've got some great skill people.
Talk a little bit about what we're going to see from them from an offensive standpoint. What you talk about very similar, but talk a little bit about that. And we talked about the quarterback. He's strong. He's got some targets. What's the Indian Nation going to see this week?
Well, the Stebbins offense is going to pretty much revolve around the quarterback play. They run mostly from 4 wide out set, either 3 to one side, 3 by 1, or a 2 by 2. Last year they had more of an H-back look, similar to what we do, but they also have gone ahead and gone almost full spread without a whole lot of the H-back idea. Quarterback, is like I said, is really the trigger man. They got 2 outstanding running backs that share the load, and the receiving core, very similar to ours. They've got 2 taller receivers that play on the outside. They got the quicker, smaller slot receivers playing on the inside. They run some jets. They send the ball down the field quite a bit. They run zone read. They run some option. And so offensively, they do a lot of things very similar to us, which, again, I think helps us at practice this week, because already today, after one day, we had 3 different situations where we went ones versus ones, and in different spots on the field, and it was very competitive, and I think it helped both of us. It's not, sometimes you get up and you go, okay, here's Stebbins' offense, and you hold the card up, and the sophomores kind of know who's supposed to win the deal, and in this case, no one knew who was supposed to win. And I think we got a lot of competition out of it. Now, defensively, they run a 4-3 defense with a 4 deep shell, which is not something we see a lot of.
Right.
Most of the teams we see are a 3 deep team, maybe a shade. We've got some 50 with a 4 deep shell. So this is the first time we're going to be able to see that particular defense. And the strength of their defense is they've got 3 linebackers that were all Miami Valley League last year.
Going against a defense like that, when you talk about a unique back situation like that with 4 backs, not without getting into all the X's and O's, but what are some of the things you look to attack, and how do you see an offense defensively? How do you take care of that?
Well, I think what you do, we've had it in our minds, throughout the course of the summer, what we were going to do against specific, defensive fronts and specific shells, and so I think this is a great opportunity for us to be able to say, there's 2 or 3 things that we've been doing that, our players, are sitting there saying, man, we practice this every day, and we've never used this yet, and today, in today's practice, we're still practicing it, and probably Friday night we're going to be using that. So that's the kind of stuff. A lot of times you're not going to outsmart other guys. You're not going to make up a couple plays and out-scheme somebody and get your players to remember all that stuff within a week. You got to have some ideas of what you want to do against certain things early, get it practiced, get it ready, and then have that in your toolbox, so to speak, that you pull that, you pull that wrench out or that pair of pliers out and you say, okay, this is why we need this tool for this week.
Coach, I'm going to talk real quick about practice and what you just said. You talk about ones versus ones and make it competitive in competition. We've got that kind of a team where we have some depth that you can do that. Maybe where in previous years you may not have had that luxury of doing that. You talked about what that does as far as making it more competitive and also giving a look at what it might look on Friday night. But it also helps guys just get better about being able to play other guys in their positions.
Oh, yeah. That's the biggest thing. In our practice sessions, when we go, like I said, against the younger guys, it's more of a controlled tempo and we know what we're doing. But when those ones go after the ones, the biggest question we have is who's got to wear the beanies. Somebody's got to wear the beanies, and it's always whoever won the last situation doesn't have to wear the beanies. And so, in today's route, the offense had to wear the beanies. They had got us on a pretty good slant, and weren't able to complete it. But generally speaking, it's been very competitive, and it helps us.
Coaches, we are getting ready to, we're hard to believe we're halfway through what is now the shortened season, as we know. But we've had a good deal of senior leadership. I don't know on the field, if you're going to have any two more impactful players as the seniors and Blane Ouhl and Jerell Lewis. Talk a little about those guys, not just what they mean to this team, but what they've meant for the program, because you've got in Blane Ouhl's case, he's been here since he's been little as a ball boy and really kind of seen the program through. And Jerell's been a big part of the program ever since he's been in junior high. So these two guys are very impactful on and off the field.
Well, I think that's the case. I think that they're very visible, around the school. I think they do a lot, in terms of leadership, going out to other schools. I know they appear on numerous commercials, throughout the Indian Nation station.
Yeah.
And, probably two of their bigger stars. And, starting with Jerell, Jerell came into our program and started as a freshman, which is unheard of. Him and Lance Reeves were both able to do that.
Sure.
And it was a little bit by necessity, but more by ability. That I just said, hey, these guys got to get in there. They can make plays. They can do stuff. And Jerell has grown mature-wise unbelievably through the course of his playing career. He was always, he started off as the guy, I make a mistake and I'm going to pout for a little bit. And, I'm going to get a little bad body language and that sort of thing. And he's now grown into a bona fide warrior that when he makes a mistake, the next play is going to be brutal, because he's going to explode. He's now channeled it, so he uses that energy, to kind of get himself going. And so I think that's one of the biggest things. We've sent him out for the coin toss 2 years in a row. I mean, he's been pretty much. We've never elected captains around here. We just send people out for the coin toss, and he's just always been our guy that goes out for the coin toss. Now Blane, interesting, because obviously it's the oldest son of our assistant coach Ouhl, who also played here. But the big thing with him is he's gone from sophomore year, where he played safety for us, last year made the ultimate sacrifice, moving to quarterback, and kind of lost his defensive stuff because we couldn't play him both ways. And then this year has just found a great niche playing wide receiver. And I always thought he could probably be a pretty good wide receiver, but I have no idea how well he was going to play it. And more importantly, he's raised the bar for our wide receivers in terms of their blocking, that he blocks every play. And if you're going to play wide receiver here this year, then you've got to stick up with that. And that's not necessarily happened in the years past. We've had some years past where the receivers, that's not their priority, although we try to make it. And this year it is. So we're very proud of him and Jerell and their efforts.
Both of those guys, as you mentioned, have done different things that have stood outside of just their playing and their statistics.
Yeah.
The part about Blane having three different positions and three major, and he's been a 3-year starter for you.
Yeah.
Started as a sophomore, and to be able to come in 3 different positions and make an impact and do what he's been asked and make sacrifices, that says something. And then Jerell, just to see him grow and see him to take into leadership capabilities, both of those guys are guys that you look at and you say, yeah, we're going to go as they go. When they're successful, our football team's going to be successful.
Yeah, and like I said, it's just so nice to have situations where if someone makes a mistake, if someone does this, that immediately you can pick up and go, and you don't have to go over and be a cheerleader and say, everything's all right, this and this. They do it themselves.
Yeah.
They say, they get a little mad about it, and they may, bang their head against the wall a couple times, but then boom, they're right back ready to go, ready to compete on the next rep.
Well, I think both of those guys are certainly going to be highly successful beyond just their days here at Pickle High School. Those guys are bound to make an impact and change the world in one way, shape, or form. So, Coach, we certainly wish you luck on Friday night, as I know Pickle will have a great challenge, and looking forward to some more success on Friday.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
We'll be back with part 2. We will talk with Jerell and Blane, and we will talk a little bit about their future and what the season has looked like thus far. We'll be right back. Welcome to part 2 of the Bill Nice's Coaches Show. I'm now going to have our gentlemen who are our feature seniors introduce themselves and the positions that they play.
I'm Blane Ouhl, and I play wide receiver. Jerell Lewis, and I play defensive end.
Guys, first of all, welcome to the show. Glad to have you. Let's talk about the season. We're 3-0. Before we get into the next part of the next game, Blane, real quick, what's your thoughts? We're 3-0. As a senior, I know that's got to mean a lot to you. But what is your focus right now being a 3-0? Is this where you kind of thought we'd be at this point?
Yeah, for sure. I knew our expectations for this team were high coming in. But obviously coming off a big win last week, coaches have just been preaching on us that we got to get better. We're not where we want to be yet, and this is going to be a good challenge this week.
Jerell, this has been an unusual year because you've had a summer of workouts, no 7-on-7s, no scrimmaging. You went right into playing week one and to what was the greatest, or what is one of the greatest rivalries in the state.
I felt good about it. Like, it was nice that we changed our offense over the summer, so no one had any clue what we were coming out to run against. So that was nice with the not having scrimmages. But we hit a lot, and then we did a lot of competitions, defense versus offense, all summer long. So it's always been competitive.
3-0, good start, obviously. Blane, what are some of the goals? And I know we can put numbers in there, but what are some of the goals that you have as a senior? You guys talked about one of them was probably to beat Troy, because if my understanding, you hadn't beaten Troy.
Yeah.
So that was goal number one. But what are some other things that probably are out there that are attainable, but keeping in mind we're one week at a
Yeah. What the season was going to look like. Our first goal was 6-0. We obviously knew that every team, you have a choice of going to the playoffs. So we're obviously going to the playoffs. We're going to choose to go to the playoffs, and then once we get there, we're just taking it 1 week at a time and looking to run the table.
Jerell, on your end, goals-wise as a team, and we'll talk about individual stuff here in a little bit, but team-wise, what do you see that this team is capable of, and how have you as a leader been able to try to keep that focus week to week?
Well, there's not much, but we had every guy pretty much come back from last year, so we all had the same goal in mind, is to beat Troy, and then we usually play 1 week at a time, so we're not even worried about the playoffs right now. It's on Stebbins. We're both 3-0. It's going to be a tough game, so we're mentally focused on Stebbins.
Let's talk a little bit about the game this week. It's the Indians versus the Indians, two teams that are going to be 3-0. That's exciting to be in a situation where you're in a game that matters. That matters for the league. That matters for probably seeding in the playoffs. From your perspective, how exciting is that to come into a locker room and get ready to practice for a week that you're make impact?
Right after the game Friday, we knew it was on. They were 3-0. We were 3-0. They're a good team. Like, they're a solid team. And to know that we got a good team too, it's going to be really. It's just exciting to know that you get to face competition, and you want to reach a high level. And we're excited for Friday. Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, it's clear as you lead and watching you lead, you take nothing for granted. You hold guys accountable. You hold yourself accountable. What are some of those themes that you're looking at going into this week? As Blane talked about, you're walking into a team it's good. You're going to see a different speed, a different skill set on Friday night.
We just need to take it play by play. No, for defense, we don't need to give up any big plays. Offense, ball security, the center and quarterback exchange is big. If we don't fumble and we cause fumbles on the defense, we should win. The Troy game was like that. We had caused 4 turnovers and we ended up walking out of there with a win.
Well, we certainly wish both of you luck, and I know it's going to be a good year for the as we continue to go through. It's hard to believe we're halfway through this 6-game schedule. It goes fast, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. Well, let's talk a little bit about after football. Piqua here. Let's just say maybe life after Piqua.
Yeah.
Blane, let's talk a little bit about what you are looking at upon graduation in June. What is that going to look like this fall?
Well, right now my plan is to attend the University of Cincinnati to major in business. But a couple Sundays ago, I actually got a call from UD's head football coach. So that was interesting, and been playing really well this year. A couple other coaches have tried to get in contact with me. So I'm just feeling out, the season, and I still got a little bit of time. But right now, my first plan is to attend UC.
Good. Jerell, how about yourself?
I plan on playing college football after this.
I've heard you had a few offers.
Yeah, my front runners are probably Bryant and Fordham. The Fordham's out in the Bronx, and then Bryant.
Why those two schools? Those are pretty far from Pickwood.
Well, it's kind of neat. Like the Bronx is in New York, and it's like they told me it's like 10 minutes away from Yankee Stadium, just to get out of the small town and picture something new.
Yeah, good. Well, what is it about playing college football that catches your attention? I mean, you and I've talked about that before, but tell the nation here about what is really that intrigues you about playing on Saturdays.
You play with the best of the best. I'm trying to play at the Division I level, and that's it's like 7%. Most kids from high school go and play at the highest level, the collegiate level you can play at. So, I mean, there's going to be a team of me. Like, we all work hard day in and day out, and that's what I want to be around every day.
Well, I would be remiss if I did not mention the two of you are buddies, and you hang out, and you do quite a bit of fun things, right? Yeah. It's kind of fun. I mean, what is it like to play with, be a teammate of guys that you not just you lift with and you work out with, but guys that you hang out with on your own? That's got to be pretty neat.
Yeah, I think that's why this team's really good, to be honest with you. Our group of seniors, not just even me and Jerry, we've been hanging out since we were in middle school. We've been playing together since middle school. And, whenever we're hanging out, we can always just talk about sports because that's what makes us comfortable. That's what we like to do. It's something that we all can connect on. It's something that we all understand. And I think that's just a big part of why this team's chemistry is so good, just because guys like me and Jerry are always hanging out, doing fun stuff outside of school.
Playing on teams, and I can tell you from my own experiences through playing coaching, chemistry outside of your sport makes it to another level that you can't practice. You feel the same way, Jerell?
Yeah, like my freshman and sophomore year, we had guys that are on the same team that would walk by each other in the hallway and wouldn't say a word. Well, I mean, now with the COVID, it's kind of hard, but we have guys touching each other, always saying what's up. Outside of public, we always hang out. We do the team dinners with everybody, and I love the atmosphere of all of us.
Well, it's pretty neat. If I did not mention, beside the host of the show, let's talk a little bit about your own show. What's that been like here?
Yeah, it's called The Bench. It's like a sports show. It's what I do for my media class. It's like part of my grade. We haven't actually started up an episode this year, but coming Wednesday, which is in 2 days, you'll be seeing Season 2, Episode 1. It's going to be exciting. We have a lot to talk about. Obviously, it's been forever, so it's just something that I'm looking forward to continue through the school year.
And the two of you guys did a Zoom one during the to watch. Yeah. Well, we certainly wish you well with that, and guys, hey, let's keep this thing rolling. And I know you guys have expectations and enjoy the experience, and we know we're behind you 150%. Go get them Friday night.
All right. Thank you.
Guys, this will wrap up the second half of the Bill Nice's Coaches Show. Just a reminder that on Friday night it will be played live here on the Indian Nation station. It'll also be played on Spectrum on delay. We ask you that you tune in 7 p.m. kickoff as the Pickwa Indians will host the Stebbin Indians on Friday night. For Jerell and Blane, I'm Coach Chip Hare. We'll see you next time on the Bill Nice's Coaches Show.